Hello, hello, hello. We are back again, the Got Value Nation podcast. Yes, we are still in season 2 and we are having a blast. Today is going to be a conversation around one of my favorite topics, primarily because I am a firm believer in that you can change your default. You can shift and strengthen your mind to see what you want it to see because it believes whatever you tell it. It is like a child, only worse. um, and so this conversation today is going to be around ensuring that you live a life happy. And I know you're like, what? What is a life happy? It is a life where you get to choose how you want to feel. You get to choose what your experience is. You cannot choose the cards you're dealt, but you do get to decide exactly how you are going to handle what comes with the cards you've been dealt. So, my guest here today, how are you, love?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Me too. I know we met years ago. I don't even remember how long ago. Um,
Long.
but that's okay because we're still young and fly and fresh. But Rochelle, when I met her the first time, she has this energetic, very vibrant energy. And I like connecting with people who have that because I didn't always have that. And so it was always interesting to me when I would connect with folks who they kind of exuded like this happiness or this joy because I was trying to figure out, well, how can I get me some of that? Like, where do I sign up? Is it something you can purchase at the Target? Like, how do I get me some of that? And so this conversation today is going to be for those who are like me, who either you may have had a difficult time trying to tap into your own joy, or you're trying to figure out how can I expand this thing, because we like expansion and abundance.
Come
So
on.
we love that. We love that. So we will hop
Yes.
right into it. The only question that I ask every guest now, for me, I love stories and I love hearing how people describe and talk about themselves. So, this is the only question that I ask on every single episode. And it's, of course, you wear a lot of hats. From a lawyer to an author to a happiness coach. And so it can be super easy to get caught up in all the things that you do. But I want to know, who is it that you say you are?
So, for one, I am God's child. I was created perfectly in His image, fearfully and wonderfully made. Every decision I've made since I have had self awareness has been grounded on the fact that I'm God's child. He put me here for a reason. I'm not here on mistake or by mistake. I am a unique, unrepeatable miracle. And so, with that at the forefront of my mind, I just operate in that space. Like, God put me here. I am special. I am unique. I have purpose. Yeah. So, I'm God's child. Separate and apart from that, of course, I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I am an attorney. Yes. I'm a happiness coach. But I don't really necessarily tend to introduce myself by those labels because over time I've definitely grown and pivoted. But I think the thing I'm most proud of right now and throughout my life is being God's child, God's daughter. Like, I am here on purpose and I am intentionally created to bring Him glory and to spread the joy that having Him as the forefront of my life gives me.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. It's so funny because so I grew up super religious, and the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I didn't see a lot of was very happy people. So
Mm,
it used to confuse me because I was like, okay, if if we are created in his image, I feel as though then we're supposed to have the best of life because he desires and wants the best in us. And so
mm-hmm.
looking at the folks who I grew up around, what I started to understand is that happiness can feel elusive, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at everyone else and you're comparing yourselves among yourselves, which is not wise. And if we feel that like the conditions or our situation isn't where we thought it should be at a
Mm-hmm.
certain time, it can feel as though that happiness is not possible for you. But what I always like to ask is how can we start to redefine what happiness is for us and then
Mhm.
become okay with it in each stage and phase of our lives?
Okay, so first and foremost, he said we are comparing ourselves. Let me tell everybody listening, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
You cannot compare the 24 hours a day that you are living in your body, experiencing your thoughts and emotions to somebody else's highlight reel. You don't know what people are going through. And most people are only posting the best things about their lives. They're not showcasing everything, right? And so you have to be very mindful of the energy you're allowing into your psyche and into your space. Happiness is deeply personal, but it is your responsibility. So many of us are outsourcing what happiness means to us, waiting on external factors to make us happy. So, my number one question is to do a happiness assessment on a scale of 1 to 10. How happy are you? Because we can't fix what we don't confront. And so, if you are a 3 or a 5 on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the happiest, 1 being the lowest, think about it. Be honest with yourself about where you currently stand. Because in order to move to the next level, you have to have the clarity of where you are, right? Barring that, you also have to know what happiness means to you individually, which is why it is so important for us to look inward. The things that make me happy don't necessarily make the other person happy. And that's a good thing, because if we all were inspired or turned on by the same exact things, imagine how monotonous and colorless the world would be. So our individuality also plays a huge part in this happiness journey. So I ask you, what makes you happy? Not necessarily you, Alicia, but in general, anybody listening. I know the things that make me happy, and they've evolved over the stages. And there is a sense sometimes when things that I know that would normally make me happy aren't necessarily fulfilling me anymore. And there is that mourning of a stage of your life or a belief that you have had. But you have to make room for growth, because if you are not dead, you are growing. Once you have pulse, you have possibility, right?
That part.
So
Yes.
you have to be very, very intentional about what happiness means to you and write a list. When do you feel happiest? What are some of the activities that when you do it, who are you talking to? Is it that when you go for a run or when you exercise, get 8 hours of sleep? What are the feelings? Doing purposeful work, like having meaningful social connections and relationships. All those are ingredients that do help us in our journey towards living happier lives. But you have to be very, very clear about what specific things that you are doing on a day-to-day basis that are either adding to your happiness or subtracting from it.
You can't outsource your happiness. That piece right there is, if y'all remember nothing else that we talk about in this conversation, it's that piece right there. Because too many times we take it upon ourselves to, okay, if I get the job, I'll be happy. If I get the promotion, I'll be happy. If I get the man or the woman or the human, if I get this, then this. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that's not how it works. And maybe I'm wrong, but in my 30 plus years of living, I have never seen it that your happiness comes as a result of something external. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, there are things that, can inspire or bring on or stimulate happiness, but it's fleeting if it's not coming from within. Is that been your experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the thing is, all those external things that you mentioned, you could just keep moving the marker. Oh,
Yeah.
they call it the hedonistic treadmill. One, you go after the thing, you get the thing. After a while, you're like, okay, great. You're so excited about the new car. Maybe like a week or two after having the car, is almost like, all right, it's like anything else. So if you aren't doing the things necessarily internally to fill yourself up, and to be fair, Alicia, I'll say this: social connections are the number one predictor of happiness, meaning the relationships that we're having with the people around us, or peers or colleagues. Research shows it time and time again. So many of us are thinking, okay, well, I need to buy the thing or, acquire more stuff. But really, a big part of what is contributing to our happiness is the relationships that we're having with other people. And most importantly, the relationship that you're having with yourself. Because listen, you can only give what you have, right? So if your tank is full with optimism and gratitude and goodness and limitless thinking, that is what you're giving to the world. But if you are bitter and you have resentment and you're angry and you're jealous, that is what's pouring from your tank. It's not rocket science. If you want to listen to jazz, you don't turn on the hip hop station. So you have to get on the energy source and in the space of what it is that you want to create for your life. Not only what you want to create, but also what you want to absorb as well.
Oh my goodness. It's the getting on the energy source, like creating what you want to absorb and also what you want to make sure you're around. And you know a tree by the fruit it bears.
Come
So
on.
if all ever that comes, we're going to repeat that because I need y'all to make sure y'all get this, the way these words, I'm just so excited. But if the only thing that you ever create or produce is bitterness, is frustration, is hatred, is, envy, then you got to start looking at, okay, maybe it's me, because it's not always the external. Sometimes it's you. I've been the villain in somebody's story before. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
to thine own self be true. I'm
Yep.
pretty sure there's somebody who can say, that Alicia, the way she did that, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But what you have to decide is at some point, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm going to tell myself the truth and say, hey, these are the things that I have been the contributor to my own demise or to my
Mm-hmm.
own frustration, or no, things didn't always work out the way I planned them or wanted them, but I can still get to choose and decide, how will I allow this to permeate and affect the rest of my life? Because I'm a firm believer, like,
Absolutely.
there's always a catalyst. There's always a catalyst. There's always something that usually happens, or there's a turning point. Now, for some people, it's just innate, but for most of us, there's a catalyst. And usually it's a very uncomfortable and sometimes even very painful catalyst. But what was that catalyst for you that invited you to explore more deeply to what happiness means to you? Because for most people, it's not something that they choose. It's just something they just, oh, maybe if I happen into it, or like you say, if you get the
Mm-hmm.
thing, then you get on the treadmill and just have to keep going for the next and the next and the next. So what was that
Yeah.
catalyst for you?
So I will say I have always been an optimistic person. And so the research shows us that our happiness is 50% genetic. It is 10% based on our life circumstance and 40% based on our daily habits and activities, right? So my family on a whole, they tend to be very optimistic people. So I will say in terms of the DNA lottery, I had that part figured out, or I was raised in an environment that nourished that, right? Separate and apart from that, when I got to 35 years old, I remember the exact moment, right? It was interesting because it was a time in my life where I was searching for like deeper meaning and purpose. What was I created to do? Yes, I'm an attorney. It's not necessarily fulfilling me. And it's so crazy because there's a quote that I love: when the student is ready, the master appears. Little did I know that the master for me would come in the form of a breakup, right? So as I'm seeking my deeper purpose, I
Mm-hmm.
am now faced with this relationship issue. I'd been with this person for 5 years and I really thought that we were going to get married. Like I just knew, I saw our
Yeah.
whole future together. So when the relationship ended, it devastated me. I was so
Mm.
disappointed because it was like all the dreams I had for my future just literally blew up in my face.
Yeah.
For 2 months, as I sat there deliberating, should I leave? Should I stay? Waking up every day, what's my happiness score today? Out of 1 to 10, 3, 4, 5. One day it just clicked. I said, well, Rochelle, nobody's coming to save you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
save yourself.
Yeah.
And you know what joy looks like. You know what happiness looks like. And these 2 months of self pity and wallowing and crying every day, what is the point if it's not going to make me better? Right?
Mm.
Long story short, I walked away from that relationship. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Still to this day in my life, it's still the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And
Wow.
I'm grateful that that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. but it has been the greatest blessing, one of the greatest blessings, because that closed door propelled me into my purpose. And so as a
Mm.
result, I wanted to figure out why some people were more predisposed to being happy, to using bad situations to recreate themselves, whereas
Mm.
other people would just use that bad situation and hold on to it for the rest of their lives. So
Yeah.
as I went through that period, people would say to me, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And it was always this air of pity. And I was just like, well, listen, I am sad. I am disappointed. Yes. But one area of my life being bad does not mean the rest of my life is bad. I had perspective. I
Hmm.
still had a job, a career. My family was healthy. I was healthy. I had money in my bank account. So, yes, I had to break up, but in the grand scheme of things, my life really could have been worse. And
Yeah.
so, as I would say that, people would say, you should write a book. You should write a book. That led to me really studying the science of happiness and then
Hmm.
wanting to teach it to the world, because I realized, listen, we can all tap into the science behind the happiness, not the woo saw like, no, literally the science that teaches us that our daily habits and activities can transform our lives. And since that point onward, I've been doing it, teaching people all over the world how to add more happiness and joy in their lives.
Listen, this, and I say this often because I've been blessed to be able to have so many life altering conversations. And for me, this conversation around the science of happiness, because I'm a firm believer in learning your skill and then learning the science behind it. So to hear you say that, I'm like, OMG, you are a part of my tribe for
Come on,
real.
girl.
I believe in it because I'm like, there's got to be somebody who has studied this, who knows, like, hey, we don't have to just go, there's, nurture versus nature. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to just go with what our nature says. We can also, again, decide to, okay, I'm going to select another way. I'm going to route to something different. For me, I used to default to the absolute negative, the most painful, the hardest part. And it's like one day I woke up and I was like, how do you want your life to feel? Because this doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good. No
That's a
part of,
powerful question.
how do
How do
you
I want
want
my
it to
life to feel?
feel?
Not
Like,
how to look, how to
now look,
feel.
how to feel. Because my life looked great. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was cute. It still is, but it didn't
Yeah.
feel good. And
Yeah.
so for me, I was like, well, me and only me has the power to change that. Because, like you said, you cannot outsource happiness. It's just not something that works. And I have always believed in studying too the science behind things. And the more I studied and the more I read, I began to understand that everything begins and ends in your mind. You can change
Mm-hmm.
literally every single external circumstance and still not feel how you like to. And so I'm a firm believer that no matter where you go, there you are.
Of course. Listen,
You
you
can't
can
hide
move
from
from
you.
here to Alaska to Montreal to Ghana back to Jamaica. You are going to be the same exact person every single place you show up.
Same exact person. Your external environment may change, but if you do not change, nothing changes. So I want to find out from you, because you've been studying this and literally teaching it all over the globe. What are some of the steps that someone can take to shift first the mindset to create lives that do feel as good as they look? What's that look like?
So let me give you a little science. So on average, human beings have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Out of those thoughts, 80% of those thoughts are negative.
Yeah.
95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So, because of how we evolved throughout evolution, yes, it makes sense. We needed to protect ourselves. We didn't want the lion to come and eat us. You had to be watching your back, right?
Yeah.
So, as human beings, we are quote unquote wired to think negatively because it's a defense mechanism to keep us safe.
Yeah.
However, saying that and now knowing that you have the power, that 40% of that daily activities and intentional activity, daily habits and intentional activities, start thinking positively. How? Affirmations. I
Mhm.
am. I am is so powerful. Say affirmations out loud to yourself. The more you give yourself that positive thought pattern, you will start to subconsciously believe it. The next thing I'll say to you is the worst case scenario versus the best case scenario. So many of us will always think about what bad can happen, but the opposite of that is true as well. What's the good thing that could happen? So anytime you find yourself thinking, okay, I'm going to miss the flight immediately, but I could get there on time, there will be no traffic. I'm never going to lose weight. I could lose weight. I could work out. I could do the things. So vibrate on the wavelength of possibility of what could be better. Another thing is gratitude. The research shows just that 5 minutes of gratitude per day can increase your happiness by 25%. Each new day, come up with 3 new things you're grateful for. And why I say 3 new things, so you have to actually think about it. If you are thinking about the things that are going well for you, it is hard to think about the things that aren't going well. So as you wake up in the morning, start retraining and rewiring your brain for positivity. What are you grateful for? When was the last time you said, I'm grateful for my tonsils or my nose or my pupils? There are so many things to be grateful for, but we are so wired to think about all the bad things. And remember, we are constantly bombarded by negative stimuli, the news, doom and gloom cells. So you have to also be mindful of what is coming into your environment. Are you watching the news 24/7? Maybe you can replace that with music. Make a happiness playlist, songs that keep you uplifted, songs that trigger happy memories. So it's cultivating an environment where you can flourish, where you are surrounded by photos that you look at that make you happy, quotes posted around that inspire you. You have to do the daily work in order to create this. And really just being an advocate for yourself and setting healthy boundaries about what you are reading, consuming, who you are talking to. Listen, if you have 5 negative friends, you're going to be the 6th negative friend, because we are the sum of the 5 people we're communicating with. So you have to be so deeply intentional about what you are allowing into your psyche, because everything that you consume, it literally impacts your brain. It does. And it impacts how you feel about what you are thinking. It impacts your thoughts. And that's why my book is one happy thought at a time. Because all you need is just one happy thought to break up that negative thought pattern. One. Just
I
one
love
thought.
it. Oh, I love this. You said something to me that really struck a chord in me. You said vibrate on the level of possibility. Yes, the negative thought can happen, and also the opposite is true. What is the positive? Now, I am a repeat offender in that I miss a lot of flights. Y'all don't judge me. I do. You know, at one point I had gotten really, really good to where I hadn't missed flights anymore. And then I don't know what happened. It came back up.
This is funny.
I do. Like at one point I was in London and I was headed back from Marrakesh and I missed the flight. Mind you, I was at the airport 3 hours ahead of time.
How did you miss the flight?
Oh, it was not Heathrow Airport. It was the other London airport. So I
Oh,
wasn't.
Gatwick.
Yes, it was Gatwick Airport. And I didn't understand that once you get on the train and you go to a different part, I couldn't get back to the other part. And it was bad. Y'all, it was real bad. So I missed the flight. Mind you, I'm traveling with my daughter and my sister, and we're on our way back. I've got meetings. I mean, really important meetings. I'm super excited about the meetings. I missed the flight. Then they tell me they have to route me through Russia to get me back in time to America to make my meetings. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm so upset. I can't believe this happened. My daughter's crying because she's like, but we're on the plane. Where are you, mommy? Because I had them go ahead so I could get some drink, all the things. And so I sat there and I was like, okay, what can I control in this moment? The only thing I can control is making sure that I make the next flight. While I'm here, I can take this time to prepare for the meeting that I'm literally going to be running into as soon as I get there. And so when you say tap into the vibration of possibility, I could have sat there for I think I had to wait now in the airport another 4 hours for that next flight. I could have sat there and been miserable because, again, I am a repeat offender. I'm working on it, y'all. Send some prayers my way because I miss flights a lot. I could have sat there and wallowed in the frustration of, oh my God, I missed the flight. I da 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 da. But just like you said, I was like, okay, so what's the other possibility? The other possibility is that I can make this next flight. And I'm grateful that I also had the money to pay for the new flight on the new airline.
Exactly. You shifted your perspective.
Because it could have been I had no money and now I'm stuck
Yeah.
in London trying to figure out how do I get back home.
And you'll be surprised. You don't know what God, the universe, was protecting you from.
Yeah.
Anytime I get frustrated about like delays with flights, my mom reminds me, she's like, Rochelle, the people on 9/11 who survived were some of the people who were late for their train, late to the
Mhm.
office, missed their flight.
Yeah.
So rest in peace to the people, the victims. But
Mhm.
ultimately, you just never know what God is protecting you from. So closed doors sometimes are redirection to something better, or just protection and preservation. So I'm listening to you with the missed flights, and I'm like, girl, sometimes, God, I mean, yeah, you have to take accountability, but sometimes God do things to intervene because he sees ahead of us what we sometimes can't see ourselves. He has a bird's eye view, girl. So that's a new perspective on this missing flight thing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to do better too so that I don't have
Yes,
to keep shifting
paying
my
money or
perspective.
whatever. Exactly, exactly.
It's so funny to me, and I always tell people your mind is a muscle. Like it really is. It is a muscle. If you don't walk for a long period of time, what happens is your muscles, they get atrophy. They start to lock up because you're not using them. And your strength and your mind it's built by what we tell it, and it believes
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that we tell it. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. You're right. Either way you think, you're right. And those stories that we consistently tell ourselves, it does become our fundamental truths. It is what we believe in, it is what happens to us. And so, what I want to know from you are, what are some of the stories that you tell yourself? Like, what does it sound like, the stories that you tell yourself? And even maybe what's one of your favorite affirmations, because I know you say you say them often.
Yes. So listen, I am affirmation queen. I'm the only child, so I know how to entertain myself since I was little. I used to have to keep my own company. I would read a lot of books, and I have a very broad imagination, right? So my latest thing that I've been telling myself is that I'm a multi-million dollar speaker. Like every day I wake up, I'm like, I'm a multi-million dollar speaker. I don't need to figure out the how or the why or the when, but that is my intention. So what I've been doing is working on my craft, doing more research about my topics. So I could really know I'll never know everything, but I will be the expert go-to thought leader on happiness and positive well-being, right? But separate and apart from that, you said something that was important about if you're not exercising, then your muscles atrophy. It's just like happiness, too. Happiness is a muscle. It is a daily skill that you absolutely have to work on. If you're trying to lose weight, you don't go to the gym one time, eat one salad and drink one green smoothie and then decide next week or next month that, oh, I've lost 20 pounds. It just doesn't work that way. Life is, you have to give life what you want out of it. If you want to have an incredible life, you are going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to be intentional about how you're spending your time. And so when you look on some of the people who you are inspired by, for instance, like a Beyonce, she is really good because yes, she's talented, but she also works at her craft. So if
Mhm.
you want to become a more positive thinker, are you reading books about positivity? Are you watching shows about positivity? What are you doing to make yourself better or to learn more? Because Project You is the best project you can work on. And Alicia, the thing that really actually now kind of like grinds my gears, I see people just living so beneath their potential. And I'm like, guys, this is not a dress rehearsal. You
No.
have one precious life. You will
One.
only be 35 at one season. You will only be 40 at one season. So if you are postponing your happiness for some future date, why?
Yeah.
We live in a limitless universe. You could be happy today, tomorrow, for the rest of your entire life. Why not you? Why not you to tap into your potential and to wake up every day excited about the life that you're living? So
Yeah.
there's a song I put on my social media almost every day. I know people are like, girl, if you put this song one more time, I wake up. It's by Shensia, and it's first thing in the morning, thank God for life, look in the mirror, say I'm the best, best,
Yes.
best, way too blessed, blessed, blessed.
Yes.
Every day. I'm like, I'm a walking billboard of God's goodness. So there is, I can't be walking around telling people, oh, I'm a walking billboard of God's goodness, looking popped down,
Yeah.
bills not paid,
That's
bills
how I felt
late.
about the people in my childhood. I was like, y'all ain't doing something right.
Yeah, negative relationships. That is opposite to everything that God told me that I have to live life abundantly. And I believe that. So in the
Yeah,
morning, I'm like, well, God, you said, and I challenge God with the things he told me. So I'm like, you
absolutely.
say you could do exceedingly abundantly more. Let me see it.
I want to see
Let me
it.
bear witness to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have faith that that can happen, but separate and apart from what God is doing, because he gives us free will. I am actually doing the work. So I know when I'm getting stagnant. So like this month, I'm like, you haven't learned anything new. What's that about? I
Mm.
always have learning challenges, whether
Yeah.
it is to just read new books, a new blog, listen to a new podcast. This month, it's on March 22nd. I haven't learned anything new. What is that about? So
Mm.
I have to be my own accountability partner. I'm not
Yeah.
waiting on anybody to tell me to learn anything new. I
Hmm.
know the work that I need to do to become a better version of myself. And we
Yeah.
can only fix ourselves or make ourselves better or edify our
Absolutely.
lives. You are in charge. You're the author of your best selling story. So you decide what the chapter headings are. You decide what the content of that chapter will be. You are creating every day you wake up, you're creating your life. Every
Yeah.
single day, every choice you make, every thought that you have the power. And so many people are outsourcing their power to other people, not realizing all the magic lies within.
All of it. All the magic lies within. And that piece about not understanding that this is not a dress rehearsal. You are a perishable item. We are like milk.
Girl,
It sounds mean. It sounds a little, morbid, but I don't think it's morbid. I feel like that is an opportunity to activate, to say, hey, this part of my life does not work for me. Let me shift it. Let me adjust it. How can I too live a life more abundantly? Because you can choose that. I do not care where you come from. And people are like, oh, well, you just don't understand. And I always caution folks to don't look at someone's now and think that that's how they've always been.
facts.
Don't do that,
The
because
butterfly was a caterpillar.
it was a caterpillar, and it had to go through an extremely dark, lonely, scary. It didn't know that it was going to become a butterfly. It literally was something that was encoded in its DNA that it is going
Transformation.
to change. If you allow yourself to go through this process that is scary, it feels like a death. I am positive that going into a dark cocoon where you are weaving things around yourself feels like a death. But the opportunity on the other side of it is living abundant and free and being able to fly all over.
Yeah.
But you can't reach that or get that unless you're willing to acknowledge and tap into that deep rooted possibility that you have, understanding that when it's your time, when your number is called, that's it. The jig is up.
You have to
It's
live
up.
urgently. You have to live urgently.
You have to. It is a
You have to.
necessity. And again, I because people, I hear it all the time, especially because I too, just like you, work with executives and leaders, assisting folks all over the globe. And the one thing that I hear all the time is well, what happens when it doesn't work out? Well, what do I do then? And my response is things happen. Challenges come
Yeah.
up. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happens. And even opportunities, some of the best opportunities in the world, like, yo, this is amazing. It can overwhelm us because, yo, this is amazing. It's going to require a different level of you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how would you suggest that we manage those transitions and even the painful parts of the journey?
Yeah. So there's power in learning how to pivot, right? So many times we have this idea of how our lives should be.
Yeah.
And I am a living witness that there's magic in the mess. No,
Mm,
so we have this society has taught us to have this very linear way of living. You
mhm,
go to high school, you get your college degree, you get married, you have the white picket fence and the children.
mhm.
But who says that's the right way? Have
Yeah.
you ever challenged that social dynamic or social construct? Does that work for you? But
Yeah.
separate and apart from that, this is why I love journaling. Think about every season in your life where you thought it was so hard and so
Mm.
difficult. And think about the you who you became because of that season. The job that you didn't get, the breakup that you went through, whatever it was, it made you more emotionally resilient. You
Yep.
learned newer things about yourself. It may have catapulted you to a better job. So I like to give people this exercise actually. Think about the closed doors in your life. And then on the other column, I want you to write the benefits of you going through that season. Because so
Ooh.
many times you forget that, yes, you're in a hard place, but the last time you're in that tough place, I bet you evolved from it. There was something that you learned from it. There were people that you
Yeah.
met. There were opportunities that were created. So think about who you were in that season. I remember, girl, I was crying when I got my first C in law school. I was acting so crazy. My family was just like, we will come and pick you up. Because you are going to cry about a C in the grand scheme of life. And I look back on that season and I'm like, girl, stop the madness. It may be more disciplined and more focused. And at that point, it's like, I'm passing the bar on the first time. So that C humbled me because I
Mm.
always was just like, well, I'm smart and I could do things at the last minute. That C was a catalyst to me working hard so
It was
I
like,
could. Exactly, right? So you have to look on your life through all the seasons of when the doors closed or things got tough, and who did you become for
Mm.
having had that experience? And it is
Yeah.
okay if things don't go according to what you believe or how, because this is the thing, Alicia, you can't see your whole life. You don't
Mm-mm.
know. Yes, you are creating and living by design as you go along, but so many times you are only making the decisions from your small point of reference.
Yeah.
I When I was in undergrad, I was a psychology major. At that time,
Mm.
the school of positive psychology had not been birthed. So I
Wow.
went to law school. When I had my breakup, because I started learning and researching again, I realized that a new school of psychology was birthed called
Yeah.
positive psychology. And it's about human flourishing. And that
Mhm.
part of psychology is what I love. When I was in undergrad, I did not get excited about hearing about mental health, like the negative aspects of it, right? I
Yeah.
wanted to know about human flourishing. So had I not gone through that breakup, I would not even know that that new school had been birthed or existed. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So that closed door led me on a path to learn something new. So just stop
Mm.
thinking that, oh, I made the bad decision or the door closed. Stop ruminating on your past. That is the surest way to steal your joy. You
Yeah.
cannot change your past. You can only learn from it. You can
Hmm.
only learn from it. And your life is your best teacher.
It
Your
is.
life, not anybody else's, your life, because it shows you what you're capable of, what you have overcome, how incredibly emotionally resistant you are, and that you are enough. You are enough. You got to this day. You are alive and you are here. No matter
Yeah.
what life has thrown at you, you are here. And so now you can create from this space moving forward to the next chapter. But it is all within you. But you have to be so reflective and intentional about doing that.
Whew. Listen, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I think I need to pass a collection plate or something. I feel like this was a session.
Come on, we're going to church today. Because I
Lis-
need this pep talk for myself too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You teach what you go through. That's the best lesson. Or
Yes.
you teach what you need sometimes. And I have to
Hmm.
remind myself of that. Like Rochelle, this life, it's one little precious life you have. My dad died at 41. So
Mm.
subconsciously, I always live with that in the back of my mind
Yeah.
about how many other goals he could have fulfilled. But he did so much in that 41 years, so
Yeah.
much more than people who live till 70, 80, 90. He was
Yeah.
so purposeful and intentional. And so
Yeah.
you don't know the day or the hour. And so when you are laying on your deathbed, what would you want your life to mean?
Mm. That's it. And if you get in the habit of asking yourself that question when it's time for me to transcend and to go to the next part of this journey, that my soul is ready to get on up out of here. I
Out of
want
here.
it to be that I died empty. I wanted to be,
Empty.
I need to be empty. I wanted to be that I tapped into the things that brought me joy, that I didn't always follow the straight and narrow path because I've never been on the straight and narrow. I've always loved to veer off.
Me too, girl. I am a rebel. I think that's why we like each other.
Listen,
I see you.
I told you my tribe. I like to explore. I don't want to just follow the rules. They try to keep you down. Now, some rules I'm gonna need us to follow.
Of course, I ain't going to jail, girl.
Because we ain't about that life, okay? I look cute in orange, but not every day. So for me, I want it to be that when it's time for me to go, every gift I've used up, I have exhausted as much as I can, all of the love and the happiness and the joy, and I have tapped in and I have really I fell in love with my life. That is the goal. I have lived a life happy, that it was not just the things that were happening, but it was an embedded type of experience that I determined and decided that I get to decide. That is what this entire conversation is about. You get to decide the type of life you will experience, what that joy looks like, what it feels like, and then what you will do, because we have to hold ourselves accountable to ensure that you create it. Ooh, thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you seriously for just blessing us and gifting us these gems. Where can we stay connected? Where can we get the book? Like all the things. Let us know.
So I can be found on all social media platforms. First and last name, Rochelle Gapere. And my book and the journal, One Happy Thought at a Time, 30 Days to a Happier You, they are available on Amazon. And I love hearing from people about the tips that I spoke about that resonated and the things that they are going to implement in your life. So send me a link, send me a LinkedIn message or a Facebook message or Instagram message. I love connecting with people because I get to learn.
Absolutely. And we know that you're going to tap in. We still got 9 more days left. So you're going to learn you a little something before the end of this month. Okay.
Yes.
It's not over. It is not over.
Girl.
Okay.
Yeah, this morning I woke up, I was like, oh no, you have to get it together. So, and wait, I want to tell people, learning does not mean some big learning challenge. You know, it's not going to get a master's degree. No, it could be easily learning a new TikTok dance, learning a new recipe. Variety is the spice of life. And so most of us are not unhappy. We are bored with our lives and monotony of it. So when I say learn, it could be a Pilates class. It could be a new yoga class. Just do things to stretch your mind and to live outside the box and color outside the lines. So I had to clarify the learning. Because people think, learning.
That. Yeah. I love that. Be clear that learning can and should be fun too.
It should excite you. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people think about learning like when you're in high school and you're forced to the algebra. So you have this negative thought. I'm like, no. I want you to be curious. I want you to learn something new that excites you. Go to a new Thai restaurant. Discovery is so good for your spirit and for your life experience. Get your friends on board, your family on board. So yeah, I challenge everybody for the next couple of days. Let's all learn something new. Excite yourself. And as I said, variety is the spice of life. So let's shake it up.
Yeah, yes, let's shake it up. I love that. You can stay connected with me everywhere, all over at Alechia Reese, spelled Alechia, last name Reese, Reese. And if you want to be and get an opportunity to grow and expand and tap in with me, you can absolutely go to my website, www.gotvaluenation.com, become a member and join us as we intentionally look to build and create lives that feel as good as they look.
Amen.
Until next time, see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Got Value podcast. Remember, there is true value in purpose, and the greatest discovery of your life will be exactly what yours is. Stay connected with us at gotvaluenation.com.